Good afternoon and welcome to the June webinar, Protecting Seniors and Vulnerable Adults. My name is Julie Mendel and I'm the Education Trustee for the SILA Foundation. Before introducing today's speaker, I have a few housekeeping items for everyone. This webinar is 1 hour in length and is being recorded. Within 1 week, you'll receive a link to the recording, a copy of the slide deck, and a post-webinar survey, and we'd really appreciate you filling that out for us. Please mute your microphones and turn off your video so the focus stays on our presentation. There may be polling questions within the presentation, and we appreciate your participation in those polls. We ask that you put any questions that you have in the chat box. We will be monitoring and posing those questions to the speaker on your behalf. We will answer as many of the questions as we can in the time we have available. Today, Lila Blackstone is going to provide us with an overview on how the financial services industry is coming together to combat the issue of financial exploitation of senior citizens and vulnerable adults, and what can be done to protect those individuals. Lila earned her BS from James Madison University, a JD from Howard University School of Law, and an LLM in Securities and Financial Regulation from Georgetown University Law School. She's a member of the District of Columbia Bar and is admitted to the District of Columbia Court of Appeals and the U.S. District Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. Ms. Blackstone has extensive experience in all aspects of state securities law and compliance and is an advocate for victims of financial fraud. She's a state securities attorney in Washington, D.C. and serves as the Assistant Attorney General Counsel in the District of Columbia's Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking. That's a very long title, where she has been responsible for many high-profile cases relating to securities fraud, research analyst conflicts of interest, and other research-related issues, auction rate securities, variable annuity sales, retirement seminars, and sales practice violations involving a variety of products. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Lila Blackstone to our virtual webinar stage.
Thank you, Julie, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I am delighted to welcome you to today's webinar on financial exploitation. As Julie mentioned, my name is Lila Blackstone, and I am honored to be your host for this important session. As members of SILA, you all are well aware of sort of the critical role that we play in safeguarding clients' financial well-being. And today's topic is particularly pertinent as we address the growing concern of financial exploitation, especially among our senior and vulnerable adults. Now, during this presentation, we're going to explore the vital measures and regulations in place to protect our clients with a focus on the frameworks established to help protect our seniors and vulnerable adults. We're going to delve into the responsibilities of both regulators and industry professionals in preventing and addressing financial exploitation. Our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and tools necessary to recognize, prevent, and respond to potential financial exploitation effectively. So I'd like to begin by providing just an overview of what financial exploitation entails, its impact and why it's crucial for us as financial professionals to be vigilant and proactive in combating it. Now, financial exploitation is a form of abuse where individuals, often seniors or vulnerable adults, are wrongfully or illegally taken advantage of financially. Now, this can occur through various means, such as fraud, scams, undue influence, and it often involves trusted individuals like family members, caregivers, or even financial advisors. And as financial professionals, I think it's our responsibility to protect clients from such exploitation. And this involves not just recognizing the signs of potential abuse, but also understanding the regulations and best practices that can help us sort of intervene effectively. So let's talk about how we define financial exploitation. And I'd like to highlight some key elements that characterize this particular form of abuse. Now, generally, financial exploitation refers to the illegal or improper use of an individual's funds, property, or assets. It primarily affects seniors and vulnerable adults who may be targeted because of factors such as a cognitive decline, some sort of social isolation, or some type of physical frailty. There are several common forms of financial exploitation, which we're going to discuss shortly. So how we're understanding and identifying these elements I think, is crucial for preventing and addressing financial exploitation. Now, I know Julie mentioned that we might have some poll questions, and I'd like to sort of continue our discussion on financial exploitation to sort of engage everyone with a series of poll questions that might help us understand sort of our collective knowledge in the room. And my first poll question relates to awareness and training. So I think Mary Ellen's going to pull up a poll question for you guys. And the first
does everybody see it?
Yep.
Yep, they're voting. They're voting.
All right. And the first question is, have you received formal training on how to recognize and report financial exploitation of seniors and vulnerable adults? Yes or no? And just select the best option based on your experience. Okay, we've got like 67% right now, no. Oh, wait, 37% no, 19% yes. We've got 80%.
Slowing down.
All right, that's all right. All right, it's good to know. Okay, great.
Here, I can share the results with everybody.
Okay, yeah. So as you can
Everybody,
see,
they can see them, yeah.
yeah, we've got about 35% of the people in the room right now, at least, that have some form of experience in awareness training. That's actually good to know. Thank you. Because it's essential to know how many of us have had formal training, as this is sort of a foundation for kind of effectively combating and recognizing financial exploitation. All right, and I've got one more poll question right now, and that relates to recognizing red flags. Now, the question is, which of the following do you consider, whether you've had training or not, to be the most significant red flag for potential financial exploitation? Sudden large withdrawals, change in will or power of attorney, new caregivers, or friends becoming involved in financial decisions, unpaid bills despite sufficient funds. Choose the option that you believe is the most critical warning sign. And thank you all for voting. This is very, very helpful. It's interesting to see some of the results as well. Sudden large withdrawals, change the power of attorney. Oh.
Now it's slowing down.
All right, good. Excellent. See a couple more people voting.
Yeah.
All right. Please share the couple more. Please share the results. I'd like for you guys
Here we go.
Yeah, great insights. Great. Yeah, so recognizing these red flags, it's crucial for early detection and intervention. Any and all of these are sort of red flags for early detection. So thank you for completing that. All right. You're going to share your results because I can't move my screen.
I already did. I've already ended them.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Just trying to move my
Click on the PowerPoint and an arrow.
working. Oh, there we go. All right.
Yeah.
Slide 6. All right. All right, so let's talk about some common forms. So let's discuss some of the most common forms of financial exploitation that often actually seniors face. Because understanding these forms sort of help us identify and prevent abuse effectively. Certainly, we often see fraud and scams, and They typically could be lottery and sweepstakes scams. And that's the situation where scammers will tell seniors they've won a prize, but require payment of fees or taxes up front. We often sometimes see phishing and identity theft, where fraudsters will use deceptive emails or calls or texts to obtain information, which they use to then steal money or identities. We sometimes often see charity scams, fake charities soliciting donations, especially after things such as natural disasters or significant events. I don't know for you people down in some of the hurricane states see that more than others, but it definitely happens quite a bit. All right, 1 second. Okay. Some other forms include investment fraud. Sorry, 1 second. Misuse of power of attorney, manipulation by caregivers or relatives. Certainly, sometimes trusted individuals will manipulate seniors into making financial decisions that benefit the abuser, such as changing wills or transferring property. I think several of you identified as that as a trigger warning yourselves, which is good. And then sometimes we also see straight theft and embezzlement, just stealing cash, stealing checks or valuables from a senior's home. And so those are some forms that we sometimes see. So next I'd like to sort of discuss some red flags, if you will. And recognizing warning signs is crucial for, again, preventing and addressing abuse effectively. And some of the red flags include unusual financial activity. That could include sudden large withdrawals, unexpected or large withdrawals from bank accounts or investment accounts, frequent transfers, unusual frequent transfers between accounts, especially if they are inconsistent with a client's usual financial behavior. Sometimes unpaid bills can sort of trigger those red flags. Bills that go unpaid despite a person having sufficient funds indicate possible diversion of money. And then certainly a red flag is changes in financial documents. I don't know, like in the type of work that you all do, if you have the occasion, to see different financial documents, but certainly anytime you see sudden changes to wills, trusts, or power of attorney documents, particularly if the changes benefit new or unexpected individuals, that certainly occurs. Then a red flag related to the changes in documents are new names on accounts. Adding new names to bank accounts or property titles without clear justification is clearly a red flag. And then some other red flags are just behavioral changes. As we all get older, in particular seniors, sometimes seniors appear confused about their financial situation or just don't understand recent transaction. That sometimes happen because of isolation or even if someone new comes in their life. And certainly we talked about unusual transactions and sudden change in relationships. Again, a new caregiver, friend, or relative suddenly becoming involved in a senior's financial affairs is a red flag that we see quite a bit. Oops, I'm sorry, I got a trigger here. All right. So next, we'd like to discuss the crucial role of collaboration between regulators and the financial industry, sort of in addressing the issue of financial exploitation of seniors and vulnerable adults. Now, this joint effort is essential for creating a comprehensive and effective protection system. Now, the collaboration between regulators and the financial industry, such as yourselves, is essential to addressing the financial exploitation of seniors in particular and vulnerable adults. Regulators such as FINRA, the SEC, and the states have established and enforced rules that provide sort of the framework for identifying and preventing exploitation. The financial industry, in turn, we implement those rules, ensuring compliance and adopting best practices. Together, they offer training and educational resources that establish clear reporting and communication channels and support victims through various services. Typically, we see that by sharing data, feedback, and innovative solutions. This joint effort, it's essential to an effective protective system. So I like to look more closely at just each role. So let's see, 1 second. I'm sorry, I can't see this. So I'd like to start by talking about the role of industry. And give me a second. All right. So generally in this area, the role of industry, we see it in the way of insurance industry compliance. Financial institutions and professionals are responsible for implementing rules within their operations to ensure that practices align with the regulatory standards. Additionally, there's communication that's super important, as well as training and education, conducting regular training sessions for employees, utilizing materials and guidelines provided by regulators to ensure that staff are equipped to handle potential exploitation cases. So those things are very important. And certainly they're collaborative in a way. Organizations like SILA and others work with regulators to share insight, feedback, and recommendations to help sort of shape effective regulatory policies. And now for the role of the regulators, regulatory bodies such as FINRA, SEC, and state regulators establish rules, such as the FINRA Rule 4512, which we'll talk about later, and FINRA Rule 2165, which we'll also talk about. Regulators, we attempt to provide training resources and guidelines and best practice recommendations to help the industry with recognizing and responding to signs of financial exploitation. Additionally, reporting and communication is important in establishing mandatory reporting requirements of suspected cases of financial exploitation. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Just so that I don't bore you all to death, I do have another poll question time, and it relates to client communication. I really like to know how often you all discuss sort of risk related to financial exploitation with some of your senior clients. Is it regularly? Is it occasionally? Is it rarely? Or is it never? See the numbers coming in. Thank you all for participating. We'll give you a minute to finish it up. Still coming through. All right. So it looks like the majority right now is either never, rarely, or occasionally, I guess, are the top, but I guess it's.
I'm going to end it and share it just so you know.
Oh, okay.
Now they can see.
Okay,
Yes.
there's no runaway, I guess, answer here. So that's good to know. Thank you. Certainly open communication with our clients is certainly key to preventing exploitation. One more question right now, and that relates to maybe the use of trusted contacts. Do any of you routinely ask your questions to provide trusted contact information as part of their account setup or reviews? Yes, no, sometimes. select the option that best reflects your standard practice. We still have some responses coming in. Thank you guys so much for participating. It's very helpful.
To share.
Yeah, please share. All right. Looks
Most
like,
said yes.
yeah, so that looks like the majority of you all do have those conversations with your client. That's great. You know, gathering trusted contact information is really an important step in safeguarding our clients' assets. That's really good. All right, well, next, let's see if I can do the screen, and my apologies. Well, next, we're going to discuss the specific regulatory guidelines designed to protect seniors from financial exploitation. Now, these regulatory frameworks provide a robust mechanism to safeguard the financial well-being of our senior clients. And we're going to start with, hold on a second, we're going to start looking at some of the FINRA rules. Now, FINRA has two rules, and you all must be familiar with it because many of you answered yes to this last poll question. And FINRA has a rule 4512 related to trusted contact information. And they require broker-dealers to make reasonable efforts to obtain the name and contact information of a trusted contact person for each senior client. Now, the purpose of this rule is to ensure that there's someone trustworthy who can be contacted in cases of suspected financial exploitation, or if there are some concerns about a client's well-being. The other rule that's very helpful in this area is FINRA Rules 2165, and that relates to temporary holds on disbursements. The rule itself allows broker-dealers to place temporary holds on disbursements of funds or securities from accounts if there is a reasonable belief of financial exploitation. Now, for the process, the initial hold can last up to 15 days with the possibility of an additional 10 days if the internal review supports the suspicion. So I'd like to next look at state laws. Just generally, many states have laws that mandate reporting suspected financial exploitation to authorities such as Adult Protective Services or someone that they may have in-house that look at those types of issues. Additional protections include state-specific regulations and provisions for placing holds on transactions that's very similar to our FINRA 2165. And with that, as far as state laws are concerned, there's a NASA Model Act that gives industry participants and state regulators sort of new tools to help detect and prevent financial exploitation of vulnerable adults. Now, the Act mandates reporting to a state securities regulator and state adult protective services agency when a qualified individual has a reasonable belief that financial exploitation of an eligible adult has been attempted or has occurred. Now, the Act also authorizes disclosures to third parties, but only in instances where there's an eligible adult has previously designated the third party to whom it may be disclosed. But importantly, the Act directs the disclosures may not be made to the third party if the qualified individual suspects the third party of the financial exploitation. And that's a nuance that you're going to see in some of the different state laws, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Sorry. So under the NASA Model Act, eligible adults include individuals who are 65 or older, or who would be subject to provisions under a state's adult protective services statute. Now, qualified individuals include broker-dealer agents, investment advisors, or those who serve in some supervisory, compliance, or legal capacity for broker-dealers and investment advisors. And they also could include independent contractors that may be fulfilling those roles. I'd like to talk a little bit about sort of what mandatory reporting looks like in that regard. And I'm honing in on the state requirements because I think it's important for us sort of to understand what some of the different states are doing based on NASA's model law. And with respect to mandatory reporting, the model law, which many states have adopted in some form or fashion, it provides that qualified individuals who reasonably believe that financial exploitation of someone who is considered an eligible adult, if they suspect that financial exploitation has been attempted or occurred in the past, they must promptly notify APS and their state securities regulator. Now, during the comment process, okay, so we'll just stay there. All right. And then as it relates to notifications, the Model Act, of which many jurisdictions have adopted, it authorizes disclosures to third parties, but again, only in instances in which previously the person has been approved and in which it does not, there's no suspicion that the person is in fact the person causing the harm. Also, states have adopted rules to allow for delayed transactions. You know, that's super effective in this particular area because disclosures, and it allows disclosures or it directs that delayed transactions occur if financial exploitation is suspected. So again, as the model rule says, and many states have adopted, that can be for up to 15 days if the broker or investment advisor reasonably believes that a financial incident has occurred. So so then there's a Senior Safe Act, which is a federal law that also covers this particular area. And the Senior Safe Act essentially provides immunity from liability for financial professionals who report suspected financial exploitation of seniors to regulatory or law enforcement authorities, provided that they've been trained on how to identify and report such exploitation. That's key. So the Senior Safe Act protects what's considered covered financial professionals. Again, covered financial professionals includes investment advisors, broker-dealers, transfer agents, and their eligible employees. And it protects them from liability in any civil or administrative proceeding in instances where those employees make a report about a potential exploitation of a senior citizen, which is defined as someone that is not younger than 65. And the immunity is provided on the condition that, again, employees receive training and they report the exploitation in good faith and with reasonable care. And the immunity applies to eligible employees and firms, but the requirements, they differ slightly depending on, what's being covered. All right. So just to talk briefly about what types of employees are eligible under the Senior Safe Act. Now, an employee who serves as a supervisor, for example, or a compliance or legal or serves in a legal capacity for a covered financial institution is an eligible under the Senior Safe Act. Additionally, a registered representative, an investment advisor representative, an insurance producer affiliated or associated with a covered financial institution would also be covered. Again, some have asked what types of employees must be trained to receive immunity provided by the Senior Safe Act. Well, the Senior Safe Act does not mandate that any employees be trained. However, to qualify for the immunity provided by the law, training must be provided to and completed by employees who are eligible for immunity. And those employees who may come into contact, for example, with senior citizens as a regular part of their professional duties, or may review or approve financial documents or records or transactions of a senior citizen in connection sort of with providing some financial services to a senior citizen. So I'd like to now move forward on some sort of industry best practices. And at some point, I'd like to hear what some of your best practices are, maybe at the end in the question period. Oh, my apologies, my light went out here. Sorry. Now, financial, as far as best practices are concerned, certainly best practices include training programs and client education. Now, financial institutions are encouraged to train their employees to recognize signs of financial exploitation and understand the appropriate protocols for addressing it. With respect to client education, providing educational resources to clients about the risk of financial scams and the importance of safeguarding their personal and financial information is super important. These regulations and guidelines form a form a comprehensive approach to senior protections. So in this next slide, we're going to discuss some practical strategies for implementing the regulations and guidelines designed to protect seniors in our daily operations. Now, these strategies hopefully will help ensure the highest level of protection for our seniors and vulnerable adults. And the first one includes employee training and awareness. Now, it's so important that regular training programs are conducted to educate employees on recognizing signs of financial exploitation and understanding your firm's protocols for addressing it. Ensuring that all employees, including new hires, are aware of rules such as FINRA Rule 4512 or FINRA Rule 2165, as well as the relevant state rules and regulations in your area is very important. Again, secondary based training is also important. Using real life scenarios and role playing exercises to help employees practice handling potential exploitation cases and engaging in sensitive conversations with clients is also often very helpful. I'm not there yet. Sorry. Additionally, being proactive about communication is important. We want to encourage our clients to provide trusted contact information during account opening and periodic reviews, clearly explaining the purpose and benefits of having a trusted contact is important. Additionally, with respect to client communication and education, providing clients with educational materials about common financial scams and how to protect themselves. This could include brochures that you might have out in your office, or webinars that might be available on your websites, or even informational videos could be helpful. And then it's also, important to schedule regular account reviews with senior clients, sort of to monitor for unusual activity and discuss any concerns that even they might have. That's super important. And then there's the establishing internal protocols. It's, developing and documenting clear procedures for your employees to follow when they suspect financial exploitation is super important. I mean, this could include steps for reporting to the supervisors, conducting internal reviews, and placing temporary holds on transactions. It could also include the use of technology, such as implementing technological solutions that flag unusual transactions or patterns that indicate financial exploitation. Those could be helpful in alerting you and your staff to something that's unusual. And then finally, collaborating and reporting is super important as well. Ensuring that employees are familiar with the reporting requirements for suspected financial exploitation to regulatory authorities and law enforcement is helpful. Maintaining those open lines of communication with these entities to help facilitate timely, effective reporting also can be helpful. And finally, participating in industry forums, working groups, participations with organizations such as the AARP and other advocacy groups is definitely something that's also recommended. By integrating these practical strategies into your daily operations, you can all create a robust system that not only complies with regulatory requirements, but also provides exceptional protection for senior clients. All right, so let's next move on to our next slide, which, it's time for another poll. This time, this poll relates to reporting procedures. Would love to hear you all's thoughts on that. Now, are you familiar with procedures for reporting suspected financial exploitation within your own organization? Yes, you're very familiar, somewhat familiar, not familiar at all. Choose whatever option best represents what happens at your firm. Okay.
Looks like it's slowing down. Would you
All
like
right.
me to share the results?
Yes, please do. Oh, what? Still got a couple more in. All right. Well,
Oops, sorry. Sorry, folks.
somewhat familiar came up at the very end as the winner there. That's super good to know. Knowing the proper reporting procedures, it certainly it ensures that we can act swiftly and effectively when necessary, when we know that. And for those that are not familiar at all, maybe after this particular webinar, it's an opportunity to just find out what, if anything, your firm does related to that. So anyway, thank you for answering those questions. One more poll question right now, and it relates to utilization of technology. Does your organization use technology? I mean, it could be AI, transaction monitoring software, anything to help detect unusual account activity that could indicate financial exploitation. Yes, no, not sure. All right. Ooh, okay.
It's slowing down.
All right.
Oh,
Ooh,
you're right.
okay.
Yours.
Think we're good.
Okay.
We'll share.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to end it.
All right. Great. Well, thanks. Wow. It looks like the majority of Other participants aren't sure. Okay, well, that's good to know. Again, this is an opportunity after this particular presentation is to, go back and find out what does your organization do to use, to use technology, or maybe you could work with them to help utilize technology in the future. All right. So next we're going to discuss some real world examples of how firms have successfully in the past implemented strategies to protect seniors from financial exploitation. And maybe it could, give an example to some of you who share that they're not sure, or that your firm doesn't use technology at all, or that you don't have some of these programs. But anyway, these particular examples demonstrate some effective proactive measures and best practices in safeguarding our clients from financial exploitation. And the first one relates to employee training and scenario-based learning. An example includes there was a large brokerage firm implemented regular mandatory training sessions for all employees, focusing on recognizing signs of exploitation. They included scenario-based exercises that helped employees practice handling sensitive information. One second, please. One second, please. I'm in the middle of a webinar. Okay, sorry about that. Another proactive, a real world example includes a way that you can be proactive with client communication. And in this particular example, a regional bank introduced a policy where financial advisors discuss the importance of trusted contacts during every account review with senior clients. Now, that might seem like a lot, but they provided educational materials and conducted webinars on avoiding financial scams. Now, this initiative led to 50% increase in the number of senior clients adding trusted contacts to their accounts. So that was one of the real world sort of examples in which strategies was used. And then as it relates to clear internal protocols and use of technology, for an example, I'd like to share a situation that was reported where a wealth management firm developed a comprehensive internal protocols for handling suspected financial exploitation. And they invested in advanced monitoring software that flagged unusual transaction. Now, the combination of the clear procedures and technology enabled that particular firm to quickly identify and address potential exploitation. And it resulted in several successful interventions that protected other clients. And then certainly there's some multidisciplinary teams, such as there was a national financial services company that established a specialized senior investor protection team. This team included financial advisors, compliance officers, and legal experts who sort of work together to handle cases of suspected exploitation. Now, I know that some of your firms, you may have larger divisions, and there may be an opportunity there to create those sort of multidisciplinary teams that help everyone in the, I guess, firm end up on the same page. And then an example of a real world example of collaboration and reporting. I like to use the situation of a credit union that formed a partnership actually with the local law enforcement and APS, Adult Protective Services. And in that partnership, they held joint training sessions and establish actually a direct line of communication for reporting suspected financial exploitation. And then finally, as a real world example, I'd like to share sort of an example related to comprehensive support for the victims themselves. Now, financial advisory firms set up a dedicated support service for clients who had been victims of financial exploitation. Now, they provided assistance with legal proceedings, they helped recover lost funds, and they actually offered counseling services. This type of holistic support system not only helped the clients recover financially, but it actually restored the confidence and trust in financial services. So hopefully these real world examples highlight sort of the tangible benefits of implementing proactive strategies to protect our senior investors and senior citizens and vulnerable adults. All right. So finally, we're going to explore some of the tools and resources available to financial professionals that can help detect and deter financial exploitation. Utilizing sort of resources can significantly enhance your ability to protect your senior clients and vulnerable adults. Some of the tools and resources include training programs. Some of the training programs could be regulatory training. You can participate in trainings offered by FINRA, the SEC, state regulators, all have different trainings on the latest rules and best practices for detecting financial exploitation. Additionally, industry associations, engaging in training and certification programs from industry associations like SILA. And also the National Associate, the NESD also has, and FINRA also has additional training programs. Being familiar with the educational materials that are out there is also important for understanding the tools and resources that you may have at your disposal. And that also includes providing education to your clients with brochures and webinars and informational videos, as well as education to your employees. Other tools include monitoring and detecting tools such as transaction monitoring software, AI and machine learning type of learning, utilizing those type of tools that can analyze large volumes of data to identify red flags and suspicious behavior more accurately and more quickly. Excuse me. And then tools and resources as relates to internal protocols and procedures. Just making sure that you all are establishing clear internal protocols for reporting suspected exploitation, including steps for escalating concerns is important, as well as regular audits. Again, the different types of regulatory bodies are available and have those types of tools and resources. You also want to look for resources for collaborating and reporting. The use of hotlines and helplines often help and are provided by regulatory bodies and industry associations. All right, now for our last poll question of the day. And it relates to client education. I'd like to know whether you all provide your clients with educational materials about protecting themselves from financial scams or exploitation. What do you all do at your firms? Yes, you do regularly. sometimes, occasionally, or no, never. Please select the option that best matches the practice that you all have.
Slowing down a little.
Yeah, I think you get
You're
it.
still,
Oh, still
here
go.
comes some more. Yeah.
4 minutes. Great, thanks.
Okay. I'm gonna end it.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
Majority is occasionally. Okay, that's fair. All right. Educating clients is a proactive step in preventing financial exploitation. So if you care about this area, definitely look into doing that more often. And then the very final, I promise you it's the final question of the day. I'd love to know what your experience with financial exploitation is. Have any of you ever encountered a case of financial exploitation with one of your clients, or whether you or your firm? Yes, no, not sure. Please select the option that best reflects your experience.
Slowing down if you want to cast your vote. Okay, it's slowing down. I'm gonna end it.
Yes, please. Wow, that's interesting to know. Okay, 34% of you have actually had some type of experience. That's good to know. Some of you are not sure, and 44%, 48% said no. Okay, interesting. Well, thank you for answering that particular question. It's very helpful sort of to know what you all's experience is in this particular area. Well, in conclusion, our presentation on financial exploitation hopefully highlighted the critical importance of understanding, detecting, and preventing financial abuse of seniors and vulnerable adults. We explored a comprehensive regulatory framework, including Federal Rules 4512 and 2165, the Senior Safe Act, and state-specific regulations, which, as we know, provide the foundation for our protection. I'd like to thank you all for you all's attention, for participating in the poll, and I'd like to find out in the next 5 minutes whether anyone has any questions. And if not, you can ask them in the chat, or if they come up later, you can send them along through SILA.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so that means you did a great job in covering the information today. It was a lot. It was very helpful. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. This is a really important topic, and also thank you so much for being a friend of SILA and a friend of the SILA Foundation. We appreciate you and your time this afternoon. As a reminder to everybody, our webinars are free. We appreciate it when you share our invitations with others. Please watch for and complete the post-webinar survey, and plan to join us next month for our discussion on natural disasters and the adjuster.